we'll see bedside PFTs. Okay, so in the investigations, the first thing we'll see is bedside PFTs. Bedside pulmonary function tests. Okay, so the first one that we'll see is what? The cuff test. Okay, so it's known as the Green and Berowitz cuff test. So I'll just explain this cuff test to you. What are you supposed to tell the patient? Okay, you tell him take a deep breath in. Then tell him cough. He coughed. Did I have coughing after that one cough? No. A COPD patient will take a deep breath in, cough, followed by continuous cough. Okay, so there's a persistent cough after that one cough, which means that this test will be positive, the cough test. All right. Then the second test is the Wheeze test. So what is this test? You tell the patient take 5 deep inspiration, expiration. So like that, he has to take 5 deep in and deep out. After completing 5 respirations, you will take your stetho, place it in the interscapular area. All right. Once 5 deep breathe in, deep inspiration, expiration is complete, he will breathe normally. When he's breathing normally after those 5, if you get a wheezing in this interscapular area, which means what? The Wheeze test is positive. There is the maximum laryngeal. So maximum laryngeal height test. Okay, so what are you going to tell what is this? You're going to measure the distance. So between this sternal notch, thyroid cartilage, upper border of thyroid cartilage. Okay, what you will tell the patient that you do complete expiration. All right, so complete expiration. You will measure the distance, suprasternal notch to the thyroid cartilage. If this distance is less than 4 centimeter, then this is positive. All right, means it is feature suggestive of COPD. So if this is less than 4 centimeter, it is suggestive of COPD. All right. Then the fourth bedside test, forced expiratory time. So what do we do? What do we do in the forced expiratory time? You will place a stethoscope over here now. Okay, and then on the just above the suprasternal notch, then you set your timer on your. Nowadays, nobody's using watch. So set a timer on your phone. Okay. You set your timer on the phone. You tell the patient that take a deep inspiration. Then do a forceful, fast expiration. So he has to do what? Forced and fast, right? So you place the bell over here. He has inspired. Start the timer. Timer has been started. Okay, now forced and fast. At one point, you stop hearing auscultation of that air, expired air has stopped. So that point where this outflow of the air, you cannot hear anymore, you stop your timer. So you will see how many seconds it took for expiration, right? So if this expiration is taking a lot of time, how much time? If it is taking more than 6 seconds, then you will suspect that the forced FEV1 is less than 50% of the expected. Okay. So as per the patients, like when we do spirometry, FEV1 is calculated in spirometry, right? So when we do spirometry, there are a few parameters that we put it, like it's based upon, there are some normal values that are there as per the age of the patient and the ethnicity of the patient and the height of the patient and the weight of the patient and all these parameters. We know this is the expected FEV1 for this patient. When this patient is taking so much time, more than 6 seconds to exhale out, we will suspect, yes, in spirometry, I'm going to expect a fall in the FEV1. Okay. So then what do we have? The fifth one, the Subraces breath holding time, BHT. Okay. So what you'll tell the patient, you take a deep inspiration. Again, same thing, place the stetho here because we have to auscultate now the movement of air over here. So you place a stetho here. You tell him take a deep inspiration and you tell him hold. You tell him hold. Okay. And you start your timer. As soon as this deep inspiration is taken in, tell him hold it, start your timer. The point where you start hearing expiration, because he can't hold it for so long, right? At some point, he's going to let it out. The moment he starts letting it out, you stop your timer. All right. So that tells you what is his breath holding time. All right. So when the breath holding time, we take it as less than 20 seconds, 20 to 40 seconds, and more than 40 seconds. Obviously, more than 40 seconds is a very good breath holding time, right? So this is normal. Anything less than that is not good. So this is poor. And this is very poor. Okay. Then after that, the next bedside test. Okay. So that is Snyder's matchstick test. What is this match test? So you have to make the patient sit in a room where there is no fan is not on, external air is not circulating in this room. Okay. And the patient is sitting straight on a, like, on a chair. You take a matchstick or you take a candle. Okay. And you light it. Then you will keep it at different distance from the patient's mouth. What are these distances and why are we doing this? So this is going to tell us what property. It's going to tell us about the maximal breathing capacity. So now what you do, you tell the patient, you take a deep breath, okay? You make him sit, mouth open. So what he's supposed to blow this flame, okay? He's not supposed to purse his lips. That is wrong, okay? It has to be like that. No pursing of lips. And this has to be not up, not down, not here, there, at the same level as the mouth of the patient. Then you will keep it at 3 inches away from patient's mouth, 6 inches, 9 inches. Okay. That will tell us the maximum breathing capacity, that the distance at which he's able to blow it, it should blow. So if very good is what? 9 inches you have kept, okay. It blew. Very good. Maximal breathing capacity is very good. He's not able to blow it at the 9-inch mark. So you bring it near. Tell him, now you try. Not able to blow it. Then this is really bad. Then bring it just 3 inches away from his mouth. Now tell him, now you blow and see. And now he's able to blow, then okay. And sometimes some patients can't even do that much. It means their breathing capacity is very poor. Okay. So there is going to be, so it is over here. Okay. So 9 inches distance, 6-inch distance, 3-inch distance from the patient's mouth. So how much is the maximum breathing capacity? So this is going to be more than 150 liter per minute. Okay. This is going to be less than 100 liter per minute. And this is going to be less than 50 liter per minute. Okay. So now we'll see the 7th one. So what is the 7th one? Single breath count test. Okay. Obviously, in the name only is telling you single breath count. What will tell the patient? Take a deep breath in. Now start counting numbers. So he will take a deep breath in. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. He will start taking numbers. He should be able to cross more than 50. He should be able to cross 50. Okay. So if he crosses more than 50 numbers, suppose, more than 50 numbers, that is normal. His breath, single breath count test is normal. Some patient might be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20. Over. That's not normal. Okay. It has to be more than 50. If it's not normal, then what? Then you suspect some lung problem. Okay. That is a bedside PFT, right? To understand that there is some lung pathologies there or not there. Okay. Then you have De Bono's whistle. Now, what is this De Bono whistle? This De Bono whistle is it looks, it's like, something like this tubular thing. Okay. It's a device. Now, what is the property of this? You have to tell the patient to take it in his mouth like that. Okay. There is an aperture. Now, this is a marker pen, but just imagine this is a hollow cylinder. Okay. So the De Bono whistle is like that. It's like a whistle. Okay. When will the whistling sound occur? Because when the air is moving through a hollow tube, right? So whistling sound will occur. So what you will do, there is a way that we can adjust the aperture on the side. Okay. Aperture means what? We can adjust the internal diameter, the opening, the internal opening of this whistle. So we'll tell him, you take a deep breath and then blow out. And you have to hear the whistling sound. So at what point you will say that, and it will, on the side now, the peak expiratory flow rates are mentioned. So why are we using this? Basically, this is for peak expiratory flow rate. All right. So the peak expiratory flow rates are marked over here. And as you move it over here, accordingly the aperture also changes. All right. So the aperture or the point at which the whistle, maximum aperture at which the whistle can be heard. So that is the point where you will mark it, okay, that this is the peak expiratory flow rate of this patient. Okay. Then next there is Wright's respirometer. Wright's respirometer. So what is this Wright's respirometer going to do? You're going to tell the patient sit and you tell him to breathe through this respirometer. Okay, tell him to breathe in and out for 1 minute. So when he's breathing in and out for 1 minute, you will note the respiratory rate of the patient. Respirometer will measure and give you the minute ventilation. This respirometer will give you final answer in the terms of minute ventilation. All right. And you will note the respiratory rate. So these are two things we already got to know. From this, you will calculate the tidal volume of this patient. All right. So this is another bedside test. Okay. Wright has also given us a peak expiratory flow rate meter. Okay. So just like this De Bono's whistle, which tells us a peak expiratory flow rate, even Wright has given us a peak expiratory flow rate meter. So there are in total 10 bedside pulmonary function tests that can be performed. Okay. So previously there was no spirometry, ABG, all those really fancy tests were not available. So there were the bedside tests. Now also when you go for your pre-anesthetic evaluation, you should at least perform some of these bedside tests. All right, whichever are possible. Like if you don't have this De Bono whistle and all, it's fine. But the other ones, right, they can be performed, like such as breath holding time, single breath count test, correct? The cuff test, these tests, these all can be done. So if you suspect a patient to having COPD, history of cigarette smoking, then if you do these bedside pulmonary function tests, it will be very beneficial for you to understand, like, what you can expect in terms of his lung capacity and reserves. All right. And even in the exam, when you have a patient of COPD, like in the exam, you have a case where a patient with COPD, like they will give you a chronic smoker, and the chronic smoker has now come for an emergency, exploratory surgery for intestinal obstruction or something. So that is a hint to you that this patient could have COPD. So that is the time when you examine this patient, you should examine him for bedside PFTs also when you do this long case in exams.